We're down at the beach. This is our takeoff point for swimming. Lots and lots went on down here. One of my first memories is of people, the grown-ups, the beginning of the year, searching for the little rock and the big rock. There were rocks out quite a ways. You could stand on them and get your head above the water. And it was a sign of growing up when you got to swim out to the big rock and the little rock. One of my very, very best memories was of the beach parties we had down here. We would bring everything down, hamburgers, hot dogs, everything. It was always late in the afternoon because we were late getting everywhere. And by the time we'd had a swim and gotten back out, the air was chilly and we were chilly, and what happened was that I would come out of the water freezing cold, and Mother would wrap me in a scratchy Kenwood bathrobe, and then I would stand by the fire and get all warmed up. And we would toast marshmallows and do all those things. And another very important memory was the canoe. And before we could go out in the canoe, we had to pass a test. And the test was that Daddy would dump the canoe over, and we had to be able to swim and stay afloat until he righted the canoe and we could be pulled back in. Another really neat later memory was when Kip and Bill rented a sailboat for a week. And I don't know how long it was, 23, 30 feet. And they brought that down here and anchored off here one whole night, and then a lot of us sailed down to Sodus Bay with them. They then went across the lake on the boat. We, of course, collected lots of stones. We were always making stone collections. Sometimes the lake would come up so high in the wintertime, in the spring, it would hollow caves out of the bluff, and then we'd have caves back in there to make our collections and to place them. Let's see. If you've got any more, Bet, you can think of? Any more memories for down here particularly?
It doesn't have to be for down here.
Oh, I know. One time, Dick Oakley came in on a seaplane. Do you remember that? I think he came in right down there. I think he's the only person that ever came in on a seaplane, though we did have somebody, and I can't remember who, walked in from, it must have been Port Bay, and they just walked down the beach until they got to the right place.
How about some memories of places other than the beach, or things that happened other than the beach?
Well, my list is up at the top. I can't remember.
Can you remember any of the things?
Well, of course I remember Ginger. Has anybody talked about
No.
Mrs. Reed and Ginger and the milk?
No, that's a good one. Tell that one.
Well, Mrs. Reed, who needs no, it's brought it to us for years.
With a thick cream on top that went half, three-quarters.
On top like that, and well, that's what we drank. But one day, she came down, and she had as I remember, it was sort of a market basket or crate of some sort, with 4 quarts of milk in it, and she set it on Little Ginger. Little Ginger was first Betty's pony, and then she was my pony. Anyway, Mrs. Reed set that basket on Little Ginger's rump, sort of to hold it up while she was talking to us, and someone said, oh, she won't. She said she might not, she might kick or something. Mrs. Reed said, oh no. With which Ginger let fly with her heels, and the whole thing went all over the place.
Remember your wild ride?
Oh, okay, my wild ride. Well, that was Ginger's very first colt was born very late in the year, in September, and we were getting ready to leave the lake for the year. Well, Mousie, the colt's name was Mousie, and Mousie was, she was born, and then we took her right in by the fire in the cottage because it was so cold, and we probably didn't need to do that, but we loved doing it. We had Mousie and Ginger right inside the cottage for a had to get Mousy, who was so tiny, up to the reeds, which was a mile or so away. And the plan was to put Mousy, you could pick her up like a large dog. She was picked up and put in the car, and they started out, and I was riding Ginger. Supposed to ride Ginger up there. Well, the colt was so new, Ginger was very excited about the colt not being around. She couldn't see her in the car and didn't know anything, of course, understand what was going on. So we started out and everything was fine for a while. But after a while, Ginger just got too excited about not having her colt, and she knew the last place she'd seen the colt was back at the cottage. So she turned around of her own accord, and I had a very, very wild ride back to the cottage.
Do I ever remember?
Yeah, I did stay on. I don't think I fell off, but I did stay on. I don't remember how we finally...
Well, everybody, they drove back with the foal.
They drove back.
They drove back and took her out of the car, and she made it up to the barn
Let
all
her
right by
up.
herself.
Yeah.
I mean, with her mother by herself.
Yeah, and then I had another wild ride on Big Ginger, the horse.
Oh, I had a couple of those.
And that was when Jake, good old Jake, Stallion Jake,
This is a little pinto stallion.
yeah, took off after me on Ginger, and I was a little too young. I let Ginger have her head instead of trying to make her do what I thought was wise, and she just headed out, and eventually we jumped over a barbed wire fence, and I stuck on with that one, but I didn't feel very good about it. It was a wild ride.